Hey, what's going on, guys? Happy Saturday. Thank you so much for opening up your weekend with me this morning. So, before we start today's video, I was thinking about view count, and I was just wondering, and pretty much anybody is welcome to chime in and give me your opinion on this. But for those that have been with me for a while, that you guys have seen my layout of my titles for my videos. And for like the first, what was it, like 431 videos or so, I used to always put Waddy's channel episode, and then whatever number the episode was, episode 408, whatever, etc. And then I'd give the title of whatever the episode was about. And after 431 episodes or so, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to start to trim this because I feel like maybe that's hurting me. Maybe some people just want to see what the episode title is, and a lot of times there's only so many characters that you can put in the title. So I'm not able to put like the full title a lot of times. But I hate the creakiness of this chair. But I've noticed that my view count has been like crazy low ever since I started eliminating the whole Waddy's channel and episode number. So for 100 episodes or 200 episodes, however many episodes I've made since then, that I haven't put that beginning title in there. I'm wondering if that's what it is. I'm wondering if the people who watch my channel, if they just simply can't find my videos, or if maybe you're not able to keep up with the type of videos I'm making because you're not seeing them in order or not knowing how to watch them in order, because it was very helpful to know what episode was next, what episode you're currently on. And it's easy to say, hey, I just watched episode 560. I know that the next one's 561, but if there's no episode next, then you're kind of guessing or what have you. So I'm just wondering if that has anything to do with it. Now, I could be overthinking the process, but if you guys feel like that could be something, please let me know. And spam call. There was this funny video I saw. I forgot exactly how it went, but it's something about how, like, you get a house phone and all you get is spam calls, and then you get cell phones to get away from the spam calls, but then the only people that call you on your cell phone is spam. And then you had mail, and all you got was spam mail. So then you got email. So then all you start getting was spam email. So it takes you back to getting or something like that. I thought it was interesting. I really should have saved that video, because that was, like I said, it was funny and it was right. But anyways, guys, not a whole lot to discuss for today's video, so we're pretty much just going to dive straight into today's topic of discussion, which is the LJN tournament. Currently, we are on round 1, part 34. And let's draw our 8 figures for today's video. First matchup is going to feature Jimmy Garvin. Jimmy Garvin versus Big John Studd. And I was wondering when Studd was going to make his first appearance. Alright, this one is... well, that's interesting. Ric Flair Red versus Referee Red. Alright, And Virgil Alright, that's Dynamite Blue. Virgil is going to take on Dynamite Blue. Next matchup. Mean Gene Black with gold bow tie takes on White Referee. Alright, cool. So, a very simple matchup, simple video, I think. I think there's probably only maybe a couple really standout figures in this video, but that's how it happens sometimes. So, I will go ahead and draw these figures, or pull the figures, and we'll begin shortly. Alright, let's begin the video, shall we? Alright, and I did say this was round 134. 1-34. Yes, round 1-34. Alright, so the first matchup is probably going to be the main event for today's video. From Wrestling Writer, it's going to feature Jimmy Garvin as he squares off against original Big John Studd. And we will start with the Big John Studd figure, or excuse me, with the Jimmy Garvin figure. So, many times, I've said before, man, someone like Brutus Beefcake gets customized a lot. Hillbilly Jim, it seems like everyone and their mom is freaking customizing a Hillbilly Jim figure. And there was someone on Facebook, this was probably a couple months ago, they had this whole custom collection of Hillbilly Jim figures, but like it wasn't Hillbilly Jim's body, like, and they weren't like taking Greg Valentine, right, and slapping Hillbilly Jim's head on it and calling him Bruiser Brody type of deal. Like they were actually creating Hillbilly Jim, but they were putting his head on other bodies and using those as Hillbilly Jim, just in alternate fighting poses. And I thought that was freaking awesome. Here's the thing. These are freaking vintage 40-year-old figures. If you keep cutting up figures and destroying them, eventually you are going to run out of figures. Now, yes, with today's market, the way that things are going, you can create your own rubber and mold your own figures. So, theoretically, if you want a Brutus Beefcake, you can always recreate a new Brutus Beefcake figure. True, but there's nothing like an original figure. The original figure, the original smell, the original feel and texture, colors, the paint that goes to... There's just so much more that goes into an original that you just cannot duplicate, even with today's technology. But if there is something wrong with the figure where it's like destroyed beyond repair, I'm talking about like if you got yourself a Hillbilly Jim figure and he's got his blue coveralls and it's like flesh tone throughout majority of the figure. What are you gonna do? You're gonna end up chopping off its body parts because it's basically it's an unsalvageable figure. You're not gonna display that for your personal collection, and you can't sell it. I mean, what are you gonna do? You're gonna sell it on eBay, get like maybe $1 for it. $2-3, and someone else is just they're only buying it to customize it. So if you can salvage it either by repainting it or by creating something special, there are certain instances where I'm like, you know what, I'd rather see it cut up and made into something spectacular than simply discarded, thrown in the trash, burned, destroyed. There's this one joker on eBay that sells bundles of Hasbro. And he sells like Series 1 Hasbro figures. Basically figures that are worth like $2-3 at most. And he charges you like $40. He says, I'm going to pick 3 random Hasbro figures. Charges you $40 for them. He's like, yeah, any of the bad figures I use for target practice. I'm like, stupid. I mean, why are you going to destroy figures? I mean, even in the worst condition, they're still used to them. They still have value. So that just blows my mind. But just Jimmy Garvin, he has a Texas Championship belt here. And that belt is freaking awesome. There are people out there who make legitimate replica belts. And I think the Texas Heavyweight Championship belt is like one of those belts. And having lived in Texas for 13 years, you know, that right there would hold extra special meaning. Now, yes, this is a Eric Boyer Wrestling Rider figure, and I have a Rick Rude figure with the Paul Orndorff body, right? And his pants are like identical to this. So Jimmy Garvin, I mean, I don't know a whole lot about Jimmy Garvin, not really. I mean, obviously Freebirds, not Freebirds. Yeah, Freebirds. Michael Hayes, Jimmy Garvin, and who was number 3? Terry, was it Terry Gordy? All this information, all this information. Once upon a time, I used to know, like, and I'll leave here after this video is made. I'm like, yeah, that's exactly who it is. No, it's not freaking. I'm trying to think. No, it's not Terry Gordy. Terry Gordy is part of the other team. Man, I don't know, man. My brain hurts. I'm trying to think AWA, but his wife was Precious, wasn't it? I'm trying to see when I think about these characters, like I don't think about like real life. Oddly enough, I'm so freaking weird, and I've been collecting like this stuff has been like all I've been focused on for like the last few years. That when I think about these characters, I don't even think about them in real life. I think about them in toy form, right? So I think about AWA Rumcos, and I think about the packages they come in, and that's how I kind of associate a lot of these characters. So you guys see how messed up my brain is sometimes. Oh man, it is a good figure though. I like it a lot. The problem with this figure, this is one that does pretty well, I guess, in past tournaments. He goes up against Big John Studd. Big John Studd from the get go when I started collecting LJNs. You guys know what the Sid Vicious Galoob figure meant to me because that is a figure I had as a kid, right? And yes, Hasbro was my toy line. Galoob overall, I was not a huge fan of it as a kid. And Steiners I made use out of. Rick Steiner was fine. Scott Steiner I made use out of, but it was not exactly the most playful. Ric Flair was very similar to Rick Steiner, so that made we got use out of that as well. Brian Pillman, I enjoyed. Ron Simmons was absolute trash, right? So you only had so many figures from Galoob that were actually serviceable, and Sid Vicious, because he was a non-breakable figure, because he had like this perfect pose, he had good height to him, so it's like a type of figure that can exact dominance inside the ring, right? So it was always one that I really thoroughly enjoyed using more than any other figure. And because we didn't just have Hasbro and Galoob, because if I'm doing a 30-man Royal Rumble and we got 17 Hasbro, 7 Galoob figures, what else are we bringing in? We're bringing in the football player from the Ghostbusters, maybe the werewolf from Ghostbusters. We're bringing in Panthro from Thundercats. Maybe Jackalman from the Thundercats, or the what's the other guy, Monkeyan or something with the super long arms from the LJN Thundercat line. We're bringing in from the Bendable lines, Harry and the Hendersons. We're bringing in the Bendable Incredible Hulk, because sometimes you just got to use what you have available for play, and you got to use other non-wrestling figures for wrestling characters. And yeah, when we used Harry, he wasn't some guy in an ape costume. No, he really was Bigfoot. That's how we used him. And because when I got Big John Studd, very similar pose to that of Sid Vicious, so I'm like, you know what, that meant a lot. And the figure, outside of King Kong Bundy, I think maybe Big John Studd maybe has like the most weight to him as a figure. Big Boss Man Kamala maybe weighs more, I'm not sure, but incredible grip. Good weight to the figure. thickness to the rubber, sturdiness. When I talk about figures that you can use like as absolute enforcers, like an absolute brute force, when you sit there and you hold Hulk Hogan, fantastic play pose, one of the most enjoyable figures ever, but he is a super thin figure. Because he's Hulk Hogan, yeah, when you sit there and you're wrestling the guys, you're going to have Hogan beat Stud all the time, but this is such a dominating and enjoyable piece. This is why I still classify Big John Studd as my favorite LJN, even though technically by everything that I look for, by play pose, by girth, by weight, by size, by color scheme, by name recognition, by accessory, by everything that I covet, technically, LJN Big Boss Man. Everything I've just described, Big Boss Man has that and more. That should technically be my number one favorite LJN figure. But I still classify Big John Studd up on there, even though technically there are the Hogans and the Kamalas of the world and the Big Boss Mans of the world that I covet. So it's... I think I put them up there by default. But this is an absolute killer figure. And when I look at the Hogan and Andre and Studd and Kamala, I always talk about the bending of the knees. Because when you have that perfect to-be body slam pose, I think wrestling action figures in particular, they got to have not only the good punching and clothesline, but they got to have that beautiful body slam pose. And that to-be body slam pose, I've always said, is top-notch. It makes it a top-notch action figure. I don't care who Big John Studd is going up against at what stage in this tournament. If Big John Studd to me is a round 5 figure. Now, if he's going up against Bruiser Brody in round 2 as an example, I've said before, Big John Studd against Bruiser Brody in round 7, the finals, compared to Big John Studd going up against Bruiser Brody in round 1, round 2, is a completely different story. What I feel about the figures in round 7 may not be the same in an earlier round. So, things could always change. So, for this one, yes, Jimmy Garvin deserves a round 2 selection. Yes, he deserves to go further in this tournament. No, he will not defeat Big John Studd, because Big John Studd is a stud in this tournament, who I expect to go somewhere near the end. How far near the end? That is to be determined. Next matchup was Red versus Red, as Ric Flair squares off against referee. We'll start with Ric Flair. So I think I got this from Nathan over at Ohio Figures, and it's not exactly Galoob 2 upright, but it's... What I liked about the figure is that it's not too far-fetched or too far removed from his Galoob figure. So I actually think that the Bruno Sammartino figure was actually a very respectable decision to put on Ric Flair. Now, when I would look at Eric's decision to use Tito Martinez, why do I keep calling him Tino Martinez? Tito Santana. Yes, I'm a baseball fan, but damn, Tino Martinez has not been in baseball since like the 90s or early 2000s. Like, damn. As a caveat, I still play original MLB 2004 and MLB 2004 on regular PlayStation. So, yes, I got like all these early 90s or early 2000 baseball players. So, I don't play with any modern day baseball players. So that's probably why that's kind of stuck in my head too. But that's just a bad decision. Tito Santana is a despicable figure. This has a really nice build and bulkiness to the figure. I don't know if I would classify Ric Flair with this kind of build, however, but it's a fine figure. And the way he kind of gives you that woo, kind of facial expression is awesome. The only downside is his face is pushed in. It's squished. Other than that, that is solid work. And I don't think this was like, exactly the most expensive figure in the world. And when I look at that, that's actually Ric Flair's head. Unlike that, again, unlike the other Ric Flair that I got with the Tito Santana body, which looks nothing like Ric Flair. So that's something. The referees are always special to me because I don't think when it comes to LJN figures that referees ever get enough appreciation because they're just simply referees. And I think managers get more appreciation because they're like legitimate people, where the referees are just generic characters in the LJN line. Now, when you look at this figure, it actually looks pretty nice on the front, but when you get to the back, you can see the paint lines. So when I talk about like Mark Hackenberg, right, and I talk about you don't see paint lines and stuff like that, right? That's one of the things I talk about. You never see any of this stuff on his figures. So when I say there's no paint lines, that's exactly what I'm referring to. So it looks like they did take like an original white shirt. Now, why would you customize a white shirt referee? Even if the white shirt referee had a ton of paint loss, white shirt referees are one of the most expensive LJN figures out there. Even with a lot of paint loss, you're still probably looking at a figure worth north of $100 easy. So it made no sense. And customizing it, putting another color on it, and particularly, you'd probably just taken this from $150 figure, maybe $200 depending on how bad the paint loss was, and basically made it a $50 to $75 figure, if that. So, but it's solid work, and I like this one a lot because I think I got this from the same seller that I bought the Jim Neidhart and Bret Hart figures from, the ones that had the same kind of like red outfits, right, red shirts, or red pants, excuse me. And the reason I like those red figures is because when you look at the LJN posters, they're not wearing pink pants. They're wearing those red pants, right? So it kind of like mimics the poster. No poster have I seen was there a red referee, but in this tournament, you are going to have original white and blue shirt referee. You are going to have Random Treasures pink shirt, and now you're also going to have a spare referee with red shirt. So it's nice that you get 4 opportunities to see a different colored referee as part of this tournament. Referee, like I said, man, I don't necessarily look at referees as just referees. Like, I would actually use the guy as a legitimate wrestler with referee gimmick. Or heck, man, shoot, bow tie. I mean, with the right look, with the right modification, you could turn this into IRS maybe. But he had a long tie, not a bow tie, but there's something you could do, I'm sure. In all honesty, if it was just simply referee against Bruno Sammartino, I like the referee figure better. But I'm gonna go with Ric Flair, man. There's just too much going on with the Ric Flair figure not to be able to push him on to the next round. And what I talked about in, I don't know, maybe a couple videos ago, I was talking about trying to do my own 30-man Royal Rumble at one point, and I kind of messed it up. And I was pulling all my favorite figures out, and this was one of those figures that was part of that tournament. But I don't know, I kind of felt like he was about to break. So after like 10 minutes, 15 minutes or so, I'm like, I gotta toss him out before I damage him. One time I tried to actually do something for someone when they actually asked me to make a Rumble, and I screwed it up badly. I just can't do the commentary the right way, so. And I don't think a lot of people mind if you sit there holding with your hands in front, right? it's the commentary that really kind of stands out. Bone breaking action. He eliminates the usage of hands with the stop motion, and his freaking commentary is on point. His freaking commentary is hilarious. Uh, when he does commentary for his Hasbro matches, so much energy and enthusiasm goes at, and it's so hyper that it's like you're into every second of the match. So that's what I want to do. I want to have something like that, but I just don't have that type of that type of energy, I guess. But if you haven't, I know I've talked about him before, but guys, if you haven't seen his videos, his matches, give his channel a look. You will not be disappointed. Next battle is going to feature Dynamite Kid in blue. And he will square off against White. No, he will square off against Virgil. Pulled the wrong figure. So it's another Ram Treasures figure versus another Wrestling Rider figure. We'll start with Dynamite Kid. When Big Rubber Guys were releasing their, what was it, Series 5 of the British Bulldogs. This is actually what I bought. This is what I thought I was getting. So when we got the white pants British Bulldogs in, I'm like, no, this isn't what I was expecting. So I was actually disappointed in that regard. The figures were actually spectacular. So when I did my review, I was really excited about getting those figures in. But when I think back at it and I thought about the blue pants, I'm like, actually, no. When I did the review, I didn't remember about the blue pants. I was just too excited about getting the figures in. And later on, when I kind of like went back and I saw like different pictures and I saw Big Rubber Guys Series 5 with blue pants, I'm like, wait a minute. Those are the figures I bought. So a couple weeks ago on auction through eBay, I just bought a ton of different figures from a seller. And they included both carded and loose British Bulldog Series 5 in blue. So I will have those figures to add to the collection as variants. So that'll be nice. But yeah, these figures from Wrestling Rider, I sent these figures to him probably a couple years ago, and he was supposed. So I already had this design in mind back in like 2022, late 2022, early 2023. Whenever I sent these figures out, way before Big Rubber Guys ever came out with their idea to paint them, and it's not anything new. I'm sure that these guys have been customized with this design in the past, and I actually really think I appreciate the blue design a whole lot more. It's just that these figures, when they came in, they just weren't complete. Meaning there was a lot of cleaning left to be done. As you can see, when you feel the figures, they're just somewhat sticky. They weren't filled in, so much was left to be desired on these figures. But all in all, I mean, this is exactly what I was looking for. If it was finished, I think I would have been really excited about these. No, forget that. I would have been absolutely enthralled with what I would have received. It's just the fact that, like I said, they weren't complete. That's the only thing that's keeping them back from really having that super excitement about having these particular designed Bulldogs. This is like, what, 1985 British Bulldogs, so somewhere around that era. Virgil, I think when I've talked about this figure in the past, I've had my disappointments with the figure, but I've always said I've recommended it as well. And as someone who was always a play first mindset, this always killed me. You might as well have just gone with Rick Rude LJN at that point, right? No, his arms are not fused to the side, but with them being down the way they are, you're essentially doing the same thing. As a bodyguard, here's the thing. And I understand where a lot of these designs are coming into play, right? Even when you look at Big Rubber Guys packages, it says not for play or not for kids. So these figures are not built with the thought process that they're going to be given to children for play, for use. They're not made with the thought process that even grown adults are going to be using them to have wrestling matches. They are made with specific poses and interpretations in mind that that it's going to adult collectors who are going to simply display them and probably set them up in a way that makes it seem realistic. So Virgil as bodyguard of the $1 Million Man, someone is going to have a big wrestling ring. Maybe they're going to have the $1 Million Man inside the ring, and they're going to have Virgil kind of standing right on the outside. Or maybe when they're displaying it, it's going to be $1 Million Man, right? And they're going to have Virgil kind of standing right behind him, like so. So when you're looking at that, or when you're like looking at Ivan Putski, and he's kind of like doing the, I don't know, the Polish power up or whatever the hell it's called. I don't know. Yeah, it kind of makes sense based on on what he does. What does Hulk Hogan do? He kind of rips off his shirt. He at the end of the match, he will kind of do the Hogan power up and bend over. But does this make a good Hasbro figure? It doesn't. So when Hasbro made that Series 2 Hogan, it was a flawed design. And in Series 3, they came back, made that exact same figure. All they did is take this away, open up the arms, and suddenly you've got the best freaking Hasbro figure ever. Or darn near close to it. Yeah, I mean, it's a fantastic looking figure. Just like I talk about so many of her figures with Zeus and Abdullah the Butcher, etc., right? So a lot of your black male wrestlers, or in this case, manager / bodyguard, it's gonna sparkle a whole lot more than some of the other wrestlers with light skin, but the glossiness, the shininess, that right there is one of my favorite aspects of the figure. And I think with all those figures that I mentioned, not just Zeus, Abdullah the Butcher, etc., but pretty much any of the other figures you look at, the Hogan figures as an example. If you look at the Ichiban Hogan or the other Series 5 non-shirt Hogan, etc., the way that they got that shimmer to them, it's one of my favorite aspects. The suit is fantastic. I mean, I can vaguely remember this outfit. No, I can remember it because I've watched a couple of old videos that I've purchased off of eBay, and I've seen him in this outfit, and I've seen him get beat up after $1 Million Man lost a matchup while wearing this. Is it a figure that I recommend picking up? As a fan of Virgil, yes. I would actually like to have seen him in probably either shorts or maybe long pants with like the candy stripes as the actual wrestler Virgil, not so much the bodyguard. But again, kind of dealing with 1980s LJN, this look makes sense. This is a tough one. If you're going off play pose first, it's kind of a nutshell right here, right? Yes, Dynamite Kid has a fantastic overall design and look. I did not grow up watching Dynamite Kid. I did grow up watching Virgil, and I'm one of those oddities who like a lot of people that I guess some folks didn't like, and Virgil was one of my favorites. So even though the figure leaves much to be desired, there's a lot of areas for improvement. I still really enjoy the figure. And is it the most pristine ever? Is it going to win this tournament? Absolutely not. Would I ever list him as one of Ram Treasure's worst? I wouldn't. It's a nice figure. It's a nice figure. It's not quite good. It's definitely not great, but it's definitely not a bad figure. So let's leave it at that. So I think nice figure is a nice word to describe the figure. So yeah, Virgil is going to defeat Dynamite Kid to move on to round 2. The last matchup is going to feature Mean Gene Okerlund with gold as he squares off against white referee. And we'll start off with Mean Gene Okerlund. So, I get a ton of different Mean Gene Okerlund figures. Sometimes it's Mean Gene himself, other times it's Mean Gene body, but maybe they'll put Jack Tunney, Lord Alfred Hayes, Donald Trump, etc., right? And they'll use the same look. Howard Finkel's another one, not including the Random Treasures Howard Finkel. And even though they kind of use the same monkey suit too, right? Why do they call it a monkey suit? I've always been curious about that. Anyways, that's a little Google search when I get off the internet, when I get off the phone. One of the things that you notice, I think Mean Gene Okerlund, his original look was like something like this or something. So instead of coming like this, they eventually went like this with the hands, with the microphone in his hand. But Ram Treasures, they've come out with a few different options. They have come out with your original design for like Tito Santana, and they've come out with like an original red pants design for Ricky Steamboat. And I have a thump, white pants thump with stars for Junkyard Dogs. I don't know if I'm ever going to get that one from them, but eventually maybe, who knows. But someone like Freddie Blassie, if they want to remake that one, if they want to redo the original look of Mean Gene Okerlund, probably not in the $80 range, but if they can get it for somewhere painted for like somewhere in the $50 range, I think you're going to probably more than triple what you normally sell your figures for. And it's not just because of the drop in price. I mean, yeah, that's going to help, but it's just that Mean Gene Okerlund, as an example, I think Mean Gene is basically a $10 figure. If he's mint, maybe you'll get it $20 for it. So you really can't charge someone close to $100, I think, for a figure just for a minuscule change in hand positioning. So, but that is something I would ask if brand treasures were interested. I would definitely want to pick something up like that. Original design of Mean Gene Okerlund. This one I actually like a whole lot better, of course. Not only the hands way out like so, but his hand here is kind of like the Freddie Blassie or kind of like SD Jones. This is actually a more of a playable figure, wrestling wise. You could see these guys go bad and kind of turn on Hogan and like slap a chair over his back or something. Plus, he's actually got the microphone actually talking into it, so that is a solid piece of work right here. This is a fantastic look. This figure is a legitimate round 2 piece. Is he a round 3 piece? Round 4? Well, maybe not round 4. Round 3 maybe. But I don't know how many referees I have in this tournament, or how many I have in round 2. If there are currently 0 referees in round 2, I would be absolutely appalled by that notion. Because I think referee is, like I said, it's one of my favorite LJN pieces. Do I put it in the top 10? I don't. Is it in the top 20? No. Is it a top 30 figure? I think so. Top 40? I would say most definitely. I think they're fun, enjoyable pieces. It's basically a Terry Funk, essentially. Only the arm isn't as far back. So if I say Terry Funk is like number 29, I mean, could a referee be number 30 per se? Probably. But it's a good, fun piece, and yeah. I just don't want to put a referee in the second round just to say there's a referee in round 2, because I think that would be stupid. Especially if I think that this is a superior figure overall. I just think if there was any Mean Gene Okerlund figure that, if this had gone against any of the other figures that we've looked at, a lot of figures that we've looked at so far, this one would definitely win. I'm having a hard time choosing Mean Gene over a referee. Any variant of Mean Gene Okerlund over a referee. I just enjoy the referee figure a whole lot more. It's a difficult choice. I mean, like I said, I think this is a superior figure among the Mean Genes that I have. I just can't do it. I love the referee figure. I think it's spectacular. And wouldn't you believe it? A red shirt and white shirt referee in this video. I didn't even talk about that. I'm not even surprised anymore. It seems like every freaking video I make, there's always multiple of the same characters in the same video. That is so freaking weird the way it keeps playing out like that. So freaking weird. But Mean Gene Okerlund is going to, White Shirt Referee is going to defeat Mean Gene Okerlund. And that is going to close out this video for today, guys. As always, thank you so much for watching. And hopefully you do enjoy the rest of your Saturday. And I'll be back on Sunday with the next matchup. Until then, take care, everybody.